had always written in my career various things from technical papers to op-ed pieces and even speeches for political candidates. And people would tell me that I had a gift, so I had thought about, of course, writing the great American novel, as a lot of people fantasize about, and I began to try to do that and found out it is a difficult thing and much different from other writing, speaking in other voices, other tenses, and weaving together a big and complex story, which A Ghostly Shade of Pale is. And so I decided to begin to do a trilogy, with Ghostly being the first in that trilogy, loosely based on the 3 or 4 lives I've led, probably in one. And the first being Ghostly Shade of Pale, which is based on things that happened to me when I was right out of Ole Miss in the early 70s, very young and naive, totally unprepared for what I was about to get into. And I was recruited into the first declared war on drugs that President Nixon had declared, and went deep undercover in the early days of the drug wars here in Mississippi.
Now this main character in this book is Captain Michael Parker, who's with the Mississippi Bureau of Narcotics. How different was the Bureau of Narcotics in your day versus what we have come to know now, as the so-called war on drugs is now decades in the making?
Well, it was much different. I just met with some of the current Bureau agents who wanted to meet with one of the founders, as they call me. I felt very suddenly very old. And but there weren't very many of us. It was a new experiment. We were all hopeful, and soon found out that we were really up against it, that trying to stop it really was like trying to dam up the Mississippi River with a shovel. And I would think now that it's law enforcement in many respects is quite different. And we had a real respect in those days for the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and not saying that officers today don't, but there are some subtle differences, I think, and of course the numbers are different of agents that exist, and the laws are different. Many of the tools they have today to apply to that war on drugs, we didn't have, and frankly, looking at some of those laws, I think perhaps it might have been a good thing we didn't have them.
Talking about Captain Parker, how much did you rely on your own experience to write him? When people read A Ghostly Shade of Pale, I mean, this is a work of fiction, but how much of this is taken right from your real experiences?
A good bit of it is, and to capture the flavor of the times in the 70s, when so many things were converging on the same stage that I think challenged America's view of itself, and maybe we never quite recovered from that. People ask me what my writing style is, and I just told them that, well, I said, for me, others may not have to do it, but for me to be realistic and authentic, I have to be willing to go back and dig up bones and embrace the good, the bad, and the tragic, and a lot of pain. And so I rely heavily on what we went through, and a lot of it was drawn from pain. One of my men was tragically killed at 25. My men and I were ambushed in Columbus. I was held hostage working undercover. Met 2 contract killers that tried to lured me out to try to kill me just south of Memphis. And crossed paths with a lot of interesting characters. Some people who were supposed to be our allies, but were in fact our enemies, and were very corrupt. There was just so much drug money around that was used to corrupt government at all levels.
These years removed from the beginnings of the war on drugs, is writing this book, being reminded of those things, and kind of comparing what the goals that you guys set out for yourselves at that time versus what we have or maybe haven't been able to accomplish. What has that made you reflect on in terms of of how that battle against drug use is carried out in our society now.
Well, when you look at it across a sweep of time, you see all the changes, and you see what you saw and how some mistakes perhaps that we made are continuing to be made, and rather than adjusting, sometimes government just doubles down and continues to grow and expand, and there's always the competition between liberty and so-called security, and so there has to be a balance, and I have to be honest and admit that that's a real concern, not just in the drug wars, but across across all levels of enforcement.
Well, we certainly wish you all of the success telling this part of Mississippi's law enforcement story. The novel is A Ghostly Shade of Pale, and I've been speaking with its author, Merle Temple. Merle, thank you very much for joining us today.